All right, you freedom-loving boys and girls. Hey, so you finally stepped up to the plate and you got yourself a medium-sized folding saw, like one of these kick-ass. Now, this is the big boy folding saw pouch from Silky. I'm going to call it the bad boy folding saw from Silky, and I'll get back to this in a second. But you finally, just like me, you finally said, you know what? I'm going to get one of those things. I'm tired of just carrying around a small folding saw. That's what I did. Had a Baco Laplander forever. And I got one of these guys, and what a difference it made. So you finally made that decision. You pulled the trigger and you got yourself one of those saws. The problem is most of them don't come with a carrying case. So you're just throwing the saw in a pouch or a rucksack or whatever, you know, I guess just kind of throwing it down the trail as you go and picking it up. So it either doesn't come with a pouch, or the pouch it does come with. And no offense to, you know, any of the folding saw companies, you guys make folding saws. I mean, Silky Big Boy is a badass. But the pouch, if it does come with a pouch, or if you can find one, you know, it's all the things you don't want, right? It's, you know, honestly, it's made in China. It's shitty craftsmanship. It's shitty material. It's not thought out. It doesn't have multi-purpose, multi-functionality to it. You know, it only has a belt loop and a belt loop only. It's just kind of, you know, what am I going to do with this? I'd be better off just putting in a sock, you know, and then wrapping the sock around my belt. Well, thankfully for me, because I make soft goods, I don't make folding saws. It gave us the chance to make the big boy folding saw pouch. That's going to be today's video. It's not really even about the pouch. I'm going to show off and demonstrate some things about the pouch, but it's really going to be more about the tools and how this is a great system. If you're going out in the woods, even if you're car camping, you're going to want to have these things with you. So as always, let me do my little zooming in here. It helps me see the actual video, like what I'm shooting, and I think I get a better sense of what you guys actually see. And you can see I got another one rigged up there. I'm going to do a demonstration on that in a second. But here's one of our big boy folding saw pouches. This one is in the awesome Nemesis camo with coyote brown webbing. Matter of fact, in here, why don't we just start right there? And I'm going to pull the saw out because I might as well just demonstrate some of the other things that it can do. So first and foremost, there, you just saw it. So it's got a really big, deep pocket that accommodates lots of tools that are in this size frame of this big boy folding saw. So what is that? You know the deal, talking ain't doing. So what do we got here? Oh, this thing is about probably 14 to 15 inches closed, 14 to 15 inches closed. So it's a good size tool, and that fits inside of the pouch. That's what the pouch is designed for. You got a little bit of play up on the top in case you got a different product. You know, just put a, you know, lanyard on it, dummy cord, let that dangle, and you can pull it out. But you still got plenty of room in there for other blades and other material. And that's kind of my point. You know, I'm only half joking about, well, then just use a sock, you know, or just throw it in your rucksack. And this can be carried in multiple configurations. And as I'm going to show you, it can carry a whole bunch of tools, and proper tools and knowing how to use it could, you know, make a big difference. You know, maybe not life and death. I mean, it could, but maybe it just makes it from a pleasant weekend when it rains and you've been able to make an adequate shelter or a good drainage ditch, you know, and then everybody has fun, or it's everybody gets wet and everybody's miserable and you go down in infamy as like, I don't want to go camping with Mark again. That sucked. All right, here we go again. So the front side. So here's the flap, like I said, and that's a little oversized, as you can see right there, simply because if you had a larger product, you know, it can still go up and accommodate a larger product. You know, everything is made in America, mil spec or berry compliant. So we've got no joke Kadura brand Kadura, right? And then we've got no joke mil spec. This is a 17337 webbing 1 inch. Then we got ITW Nexus side release buckles right here. And then, you know, on the buckle retention, there's extra because, again, just like I said, maybe that flap has to come up. So you want a little extra. And on that note, and we've done this more on the smaller, the regular folding saw pouch than we have the big boy. But I do have people who want the flap to be a little bit longer because, you know, I don't have every saw in the world and I don't know every saw that's being produced out there. But some of them like, well, this is just a little bit in a weird sizing. So instead of making a whole new product, we can just make an extended flap, add a little bit more webbing, and that gives you the ability so you don't have the product sticking out the side. The flap can still completely cover it and secure it to the inside. Then, you know, down on the bottom, You've got some MOLLE attachment points. Hey, you're out in the woods, you know, and you're going to be using sharp instruments. Maybe you're making stuff, prepping for fire. Could be axe, knives, sharp pointy things, whatever. So a first aid kit, right? This is the medical deployment pouch we make for Black Scout survival. I know I've got pictures on the website or on Instagram or somewhere on them interwebs where I've got one of these mounted to the front. I'm not going to do it. It's just a demonstration, but you could mount one of these to the front. So that way, if you're out working with sharp objects, you got your medical, because you're probably going to need and want your medical around. Or if you want to do smaller pouches, now this is our utility pouch. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a video on this probably in the next couple of weeks, because you can see, oh my gosh, does that have snaps on it? Yes, it does. And for the people who've already ordered them, as you know, I call every customer. So even though this isn't shown on the website yet, I run through what we've done and how we've tweaked it, and I give everybody a chance if that's what they want to do. But that's another product you could just put on the very bottom. Now, this is a little bit wider than the pouch, but this could be extra sharpening. This could be gloves. This could be your first aid pouch. This could be lickies and chewies. You do you. You know your environment and what you're up to way better than I do. Oh, and then now this. Here, I guess I'll come to the backside. So on the backside, so you've got multiple carrying configurations. So you can see all this MOLLE on the back. You could attach this to the outside of your rucksack if that's what you're running, or your SRDP, or another product that has MOLLE. So you can attach it and carry it that way. You can see, well, I didn't really do it here. Let me just do it on one, because talking ain't doing. I thought I had it set up for one, but I stand corrected. So here, all I just did on one is I skipped the top row of MOLLE. And by doing so, I made a belt channel out of it. That belt channel could be on the waist pad of a large rucksack. It could be around your regular belt, but it just gives you another option. You could just carry this from your waist if you wanted to. This little guy here, it'll make a little bit more sense. I just attached this. This is an ITW Nexus. I can't remember what they're called, but this is just shock cord from like our hanging tags that I send you with the keeper on it, the shock cord keeper. And as I'm going to show you, there's a rear slip pocket. Well, here, talking ain't doing. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. So there, as you see, there's a rear slip pocket. Folding saws are awesome, but so are other hand tools. And so again, I'm just like, well, if you're going to do it, you know you're going to be using more than just that tool. So make it design it, excuse me, so it's multifunctional. And that's what we got here. So this is a Roselli axe. I just slid that down there. You could have a really long axe. And if you did have a long axe, that's what this is. That's back there. It's just a little kicker strap. So if this handle was coming through, you could just run the handle down there. Just would help secure it so that handle doesn't sway way too far to the right and left and potentially trip you up. But back on point, I was just showing this off because, that's how I do it. And then I just run that over the top. And that's just like a little safety device. So now, and I could tighten it up, but so my axe doesn't just spill out by accident. Put that guy off to the side. And then down below that little kicker loop, you see this other loop. Now, this is something, I don't know what we're going to do. We might just not do the leg strap anymore. And truth be told, everybody is different, so our leg strap is just this, and it just feeds through this binding tape loop on the bottom, and then you could wrap it around your leg. But I don't know how many layers of clothing you have. I don't know. Maybe you've got legs like tree trunks. I just don't know. So, we've been doing it with our normal drug strap, which, so if you're not going to use the leg strap, you could still use this to secure and tighten up a bedroll or a jacket or some other type of item. But I think, I'm not sure. Leave me a comment. Seriously. Should we keep including these? I'm probably going to end up doing another thing of straps again on the website, because I've had a lot of people asking. So they're called docking straps. We call them drug straps because once you get one or two, if you've never had these things before, I know it sounds stupid, but you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much use for this. It's good to have, I've got probably two little small waterproof bags where I just throw all these things in. You always have use for these straps. They're so convenient. But I don't know if I'm going to include it as a leg strap because I don't know how many people actually use a leg strap. And B, if you're not going to use it, and maybe you want two of these instead of one. So I might just move these over to a strap page. And that's a different video. And we could do it on different sizes and the whole 9 yards. But that's what that little guy in the bottom right there is for. So, and then the last thing is, so as I already kind of showed, you know, there's a sleeve and then there's a rear slip sleeve. Say that 5 times fast on a, well, it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. I can't use that excuse. A rear slip sleeve, right there. Now that's designed for your other item to go in, right? So in the main pouch, you've got your folding saw, and then in the rear pouch, if you want, you could carry your camp axe or a shovel, and I'll demonstrate some other ones. But if you're not carrying anything, and this is about as large of an item I would do this, what I'm about to say, you could also use that pocket right there and run your belt through there. Like, especially if you're working, like this would work better in my opinion if you were running, excuse me, one of our Sherpa belts, which is designed to go on the outside of your clothing. Then you could run the Sherpa belt through here, and then this could reside in a scout carry in the small of your back. And for most of us, that's not going to really stick out too far, you know, through your side profiles, you know, but if you're skinny, then it would stick out, and that might not be something you want to do, but it's another option you get to do. And I'm going to show you another carrying option that I got set up on that guy. But let's just kind of knock out some more of these props. So I already showed you with the awesome, oh, and look at those scales. So the other one, I'll pull that out. That's my original big boy. When I first grew up and said, you know what, I think it's time to get a medium-sized folding saw. And there's almost nothing you couldn't do with this and an axe or a tomahawk that's got a hammering capacity or something. Man, these things cut through wood. No, like there's no, like it's butter. Like seriously, it's butter. I really like these Silkies, but I like these scales that they did. My other one's a bright yellow, but so again, as I said, we designed this around the Silky Big Boy. That's about 15 inches closed, but just some other saws, because maybe you don't like those type of saws. Now that's a push pull. This is a bow saw. So this comes apart and connects, and it makes like a bow or an isosceles triangle. And that's how you're doing your pulling. This is the Agawa Canyon Boreal 15. Yeah, Boreal 15 by Agawa Canyon. So if that's your style of saw, that fits just in there. It's just inside. It's got a little bit of play. So that's another type of saw that can fit in there if you want to use that as opposed to a Silky. You know, I'll just leave this in here just so there's a little something in there. And then I'm going to give you a couple options that you might want to consider. You know, because a folding saw isn't going to cut down vegetation. I mean, it's going to cut down trees, but you know, I don't know your terrain. I don't know what you're trying to do. So you might want more of a machete type of tool in addition to a folding saw. So this is a Gerber, like it's just basically a serrated machete. And with that rear pocket, yep, I can get that down to right about there. So I could have 2 tools in my one pouch, as opposed to I got a tool and it didn't come with a pouch, or the pouch it came with, I looked at it and all the threads started splitting. Well, that's what you get when you start using slave labor and cheap materials. And then a shovel. I've talked about shovels in the past. I'm just going to be an advocate for shovels again. Shovels are great tools in the field. You know, if you got like it'd be awesome if there really was a utility tool. And I know there's a couple companies, Gerber's another one, that makes something similar where it's more of a handle. And then you could screw in different attachments, and you could screw in other pieces of handle. You could make a survival spear, a jigging spear, you know, a shovel, attach a shovel attachment to the end. But a shovel is an awesome thing. And I just wanted to use this also as an example, because look at that. That's got a pretty good swale to it. It's a pretty thick handled, you know, tool. This is really super lightweight though. And again, I mean, if you're saying, why would I want a shovel? Well, think about digging a slit trench. You know, if you're going to be there for an extended period of time, what are you going to do with defecation, urination? You don't want that stuff just above ground right next to your campsite. No bueno, man. No me gusta. Or digging an irrigation ditch around where you're sleeping if you're sleeping on the ground. If it rains and all that water just comes, you know, underneath your tent, oh, everything's soaked. So there you go. Get another example. So a shovel might be something you want to consider. Now you're looking at this and saying, okay, well, how would I carry this then, right? Well, you could attach it to your rucksack, as I was going to explain, or I did explain, or I got one set up here and I'm going to try something new. I'm going to bounce the camera view over there. I'm going to go over and I'm going to put that on so you can see. Because one of the other things you could do with the pouch, it doesn't come this way, but I call every customer, and if I saw you just having a shoulder strap and this or whatever, when I call you, I'm going to ask like, hey, just to be sure, are you doing that with this? Because then I might give you a different type of attachment. But these MOLLE columns, you can attach either split bars or chasm buckles. That's the female portion of like a shoulder strap. And you can attach these here, and then you could over the shoulder carry this if you wanted as well. So that's just another option. And I've got it set up over here. I've never tried this before. Let's see if it works. Here we go, everybody. Let me switch the camera views. There, I think I'm back on. Yep, I'm back on. For some reason, it dropped the speaker for a second. But so actually, I'm in a better spot anyway. So you can see, now this is where that leg strap, and you can see it dangling there, might be nice because I could attach the big boy to around my leg to help prevent it from moving around. But just right here for where this is, I mean, I can rest my elbow on the, if I'm carrying an axe, this is a trail hawk, I could rest my elbow here. But, adjust the shoulder strap, and then your hand's just resting down on the object, whether this is a first aid kit. But if you just look at this, I mean, that's a mother canteen carrier and the folding saw with 2 different tools in it, and then everything I could carry in the mother. That is a lot of kick-ass gear. So that's just another way that you could carry this bad boy. You kind of see it just a little bit there. Yeah, so that's just another way that you could carry this guy. And you can't do that with any of the other products or the way it comes and all that jazz. And then last but not least, yeah, so you guys could see that. So I just pulled that out. Well, and then there, can you, let me just do that. So, well, I got it, there, so you can see. So I have that rigged up. I got the mother attached to the MOLLE on the outside of the big boy, and you can see how it just sits there. So they're pretty much equal length. Now, again, I'm not saying that's exactly how you want to carry it, but then if, you got a padded strap wrap on it, which has more connection points for additional gear and more gear inside of the padded strap wrap. I mean, that's what you want. That's what I want anyway. I want a product that, is multi-purpose, multifaceted, multidimensional, that I don't use for just one thing and one thing only. I want this to be, because I'm trying to minimize, maybe you are. If you're car camping, you got a big vehicle or whatever, take the kitchen sink. I mean, seriously, I ain't sleeping in the mud anymore. I'm not going to lie. So if you can do it, bring it. But if you can't, then again, and I'm going to do a video on the mother here this weekend, that it's a max amount of gear and a minimalist platform. That's just another example, even though we're talking about the big boy folding saw pouch. I could have rigged that shoulder strap up to the mother and then just had the saw pouch kind of loose. I rigged that. Oh, I suppose I should do that too. Yeah, so there, you see what I just did on the backside? Yep, I just took, those are chasm buckles. I just attached them to these columns up on the top, and then I just attached my shoulder strap to it. That's it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as they like to say. But then last but not least on the tools. So this is a Trail Hawk by Cold Steel. I know some people might laugh like Cold Steel. I've got a bunch of Cold Steel products to include like that guy right up there. That's no joke. That's the real deal. I mean, that would inflict a lot of damage, a lot of scunion. So they're pretty damn good products. But again, what I'm really just trying to point out, so not only do you have a tool that you can use for chopping, carving, shaving, but you got a hammer part of it too. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because for me, like this Roselli axe also has it on the backside too. There's a hammer part. That's something I personally, want to have in my camp axes because you got to hammer in tent stakes, or you're hammering something flat or, you're hammering your finger. I don't know. Just making crap up. It's, you know, a little bit late in the day. All right. So that's it right there. Our big boy folding saw pouch. Oh, and then like I was just showing off earlier, just in case I didn't really demonstrate it, but that guy's the same thing. Well, I already did that. Yeah. With the Roselli. Yep. It's just a little safety thing I do just to keep the axe from sliding out of the pouch. But the big boy folding saw pouch, this one's a Nemesis. You know, thank God that I guess they didn't want to make pouches with their awesome saws, because it gave little old me and, you know, who we are, handcrafted, made in America, custom made, you know, pick and choose your different colors, thread, logo, plastics, you know, that kind of stuff. It doesn't really make any difference to us. And a lot of other companies don't do that. A lot of companies charge, oh, now we're making it custom. In addition to just whatever that other custom material is, now we're going to charge you a custom fee. You know, when we're using these guys, look, the spool of thread is the spool of thread, you know, and why would we be charging you because you wanted a different color spool, you know, thread? I don't know. But so that's another thing about us. We're a custom made shop. I call every customer. If we can do it for you, we can do it. You know, and I hope that the drop-down menus on the website aren't confusing sometimes, because, you know, when you're ordering a pizza, and I've said this and I'll end it with this. If you've ordered pizza before, which I'm sure most people have, it comes really easy. Oh, I want a pepperoni sausage, green pepper, you know, and mushroom. Boom. You're just done. Do it. Well, that's what those drop downs. And I try to have pictures, you know, with arrows. And thank you to Valley Reb, who helps out with that. Alex Nemesis, our photographer, takes great photos. And then I have Valley Red helps out, and he takes the photo and he does arrows pointing out, yeah, that's the logo, you know, that's the plastics, that's the webbing. But if you do have questions, you know the deal. Just give me a call. I'll do the best I can to help you out. Nemesis Camo, looking badass as always. The big boy folding saw pouch, because you don't want a product that just does one thing. Multifaceted, multifunctional, multi-use, multi-dimensional, handcrafted by real humans. Well, I think one of us is a real human, but by real humans, not, you know, machine, CNC'd, not slave labor, real friggin' human beings, only using made in America, mil-spec, or Berry compliant materials. You got questions, you know the deal. Comments, reach out anytime. I'll do the best I can to help you out. I think that's it. Yeah, 22 minutes. Yeah, was thinking it was going to take about that. So do the best I can to help you out. Until then, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We'll see you guys again real soon. Be good. Woo!